Good evening. Welcome back, folks. Welcome to Men on a Mission podcast. I'm Peter Iglesias, your host. Men on a Mission podcast is dedicated to men's health. We touch on mental health, physical health, financial health, relationship health. We kind of run the gamut on everything. It's an exciting time for us. I've got an incredible guest, Patrick Neeley. He is awesome. He is a Navy veteran. He is a CEO, entrepreneur, a father, a husband, a champion flag football player, and a CrossFit buddy of mine. So, Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for
Glad to
having
have
me,
you,
man.
man. Awesome. Patrick, tell us a little bit about yourself, and let's dive right in. Cool.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me too. This
Oh,
is really
my
awesome.
pleasure. No, this is an honor. Thank you.
Yeah. Your mission and what you were talking about matters.
Yeah,
So, to be a part of that is pretty cool.
that's awesome. Yeah.
I hope my story can add to that on some level would be nice.
It's funny you say that. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
it it's I think when people tell their stories, when I told my story originally on this podcast, it really that's how you get people to, feel better or just say, hey, they can relate to what you're doing and they feel like they're not alone. So it's, your story is just as important as anybody else's. So please,
Yeah.
by all means, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's true, right? Well, and you got to give people space to
Yeah.
talk, right?
Yeah.
Especially as men.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'll tell you about me. I grew up in a small town. It's called Plainfield, Indiana.
Hmm.
It's just west of Indianapolis.
Okay.
It is absolutely as big as it sounds. And my anecdotal story about Plainfield is that if you ever fly into Indianapolis, when you fly in, when you're about to land, just look out the window. There's a cornfield, and that is Plainfield.
Yeah.
And that is not a joke.
Mhm.
It sounds like one. I First of all, I love that I grew up in Plainfield,
Yep.
and it was definitely a blessing because it was a good town and it's a good place to grow up. Um, like anything, you don't know what you don't know, but at the time, I knew for sure that that was not going to be enough for me.
Mhm.
And I think now, looking back on it, I've grown an appreciation for small towns because I think when you're young, you stay there forever,
Mhm.
live within like a 30-minute radius of where
Sure.
you grew up, or you leave.
Right.
And those people that leave tend to go far away. So I knew I wanted out, but I didn't necessarily know kind of what that meant.
Right.
And it's all, pre 9/11. So
Mhm.
you just remember what that world was like.
Sure.
We, I knew I wanted to fly.
Mhm.
And so I ended up talking to the military recruiters.
Mhm.
And uh, I happened to have a friend of mine whose dad owned a business,
Okay.
and he that did gutters, and they were doing some work on a Navy base. And so through that, I kind of ended up in the recruiter's office. The idea of joining the military, of me doing it, started with that.
Yeah.
And I, I also have a lot of family members who are in the military as
Okay.
well. So I'd be remiss not to mention them.
Mhm.
My grandpa actually was it's called an FMF, a corpsman. So
Okay.
he kind of worked in World War II. So
Okay. Wow.
he helped Marines. He was definitely an influence. But so I just wanted to fly, right? So
Sure.
I went in and it's this little young guy, and he's in his whites. He's standing outside smoking a cigarette. Hey man, come on over here. And I said, I want to fly. And I had talked with a couple of the other.
Mhm.
I talked to the Air Force as well, and they handed me a bunch of jobs that had nothing to do with flying.
Yeah.
I was like, listen, I'm not going to be a mechanic. I can change the alternator on my car out there, but
Yeah.
that's about the extent of it. So I want to fly. So he hands me a list of jobs,
Mhm.
and I end up choosing this air crew position there, and it's called it being an air crewman. And then later he says, "Hey man, you want to be a rescue swimmer?"
Oh.
I was like, "Cool. Probably. What is that?" I don't know. That
You
sounds
don't
like
know what you
fun.
don't know, right?
Yeah. So he
Mhm.
says, it's that's really cool actually because you get to jump out of helicopters, you get to save people. It's awesome, dude. He's like chicks like
Chicks
it,
dig it.
right?
Yeah.
So
I
Of
don't know how I
course,
feel about jumping out of a helicopter. Just saying,
perfectly good.
shark-infested water. You're a braver man than I too.
Well, it's an interesting story because the only swimming, not a lot of ocean in
Mhm.
Indianapolis.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
Um, but my grandma had a 4 foot above ground pool,
Okay.
and I was a diver in the 6th grade. So,
Okay.
a lot of prep work for jumping out of helicopters. But he forgot to have me sign some paperwork, and I didn't find out each of the testable evolutions
Okay.
until I went to MEPS, and I was in kind of a holding program
Sure.
called delayed entry for a year.
Hmm.
So I was going to meetings all throughout my senior year of high school,
Okay.
and never until I went into the actual processing right before boot camp
Holy
did
shit.
they find this paper. And the guy laughed and he said, "Oh, I guess we forgot this." And he hands it to me, and it starts showing the open ocean swims and the buddy toes and all the runs and all these things that are these pass or fail evolutions
Wow.
um, that I ostensibly had a year to get ready for. Oops, forgot to tell you about those. Um, so I made it through the training. I'm pretty proud of that. I was a rescue swimmer for 10 years.
Okay.
Flew with a squadron out of Jacksonville, HSL 44.
Mhm.
Did a few deployments, spent some time in Africa, Europe, a couple deployments to Iraq.
Wow.
The last time I went, I got to play Army for a year. That was
Okay.
fun. It's called Individual Augmentee. I was given orders to go to Schools Command in Pensacola
Okay.
to become an instructor, which is great because that's like a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah. And you get to tell people what to do all day.
Oh yeah, our job was to run and swim
That doesn't suck.
and lift weights
Yeah.
and do it in Pensacola,
Hmm.
which is beautiful,
Beautiful. Yeah.
beautiful, amazing
Hmm.
beaches. The Blue Angels are out
Yeah.
of
Hmm.
Pensacola,
Sure.
so
Sure.
that's fun because they're right over your head. They're practicing,
Yeah.
and so it's a spectacle. It was probably more fun as a student than it was as an instructor because you're trying to maintain
Yeah.
focus and attention
It's
and
not like you can go out drinking as an instructor.
dangerous.
Yeah.
And you can't go out at all because the students see you and
Yeah.
they all just get wide eyed. Uh, but I did that for 10 years. As soon as I showed up, I was almost immediately notified that I had been tagged to join an Army unit.
Okay.
And so I went out to San Diego for a week, and then I went to El Paso, Texas, met up with the Army unit there, and then deployed back to Baghdad, kind of proper, for a year.
Wow.
And the end of that, I went back to Pensacola, finished out my tour there, and then ended up coming down to South Florida after. So
Okay.
I was hurt. I had an injury,
Okay.
and that kind of forced me to figure out what I want to be when I
Sure.
grow up real fast.
Sure. Sure.
Um, so fast forward a little bit, I went to FIU,
Okay.
got my master's from FIU, worked in sales and sales operations for a little while, and presently own a company called Seniors Helping Seniors.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's great. How did you get into that? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, that's a good question. I had what I think is actually a very common experience out here
Hmm.
in the real world.
Hmm.
I talk with my caregivers when I hire them all the time. I have this conversation, and you it goes back to you don't know what you don't know, right? I
Sure.
think there are just a few sort of universal truths
Mhm.
for everybody, regardless of where
Yeah.
you're at, and that you don't know what you don't know matters.
Right.
And it's as I've gotten older, it's become more and more important in my life. But um, I essentially had some really bad sort of HR kind of experiences.
Yeah.
If you go back to while I was in the military,
Right.
that atmosphere of being in a squadron and being part of an air crew was informative because learning to be a part of a team and
Sure.
then learning to lead a team
Hmm.
in that space really is it matters because if you don't genuinely care about the people around you,
Right.
people die.
Of course.
We don't always have to like each other. That's
Hmm.
important, and we often don't. It's just like being
Yeah.
in a family. But
Hmm.
if you don't care,
Yeah.
people know, and they won't follow you.
Mhm.
and people will get hurt or die. So that was in my formative years. That's kind of where I came up.
Right.
Now I'm out here in the real world, and it's not always like that.
Mhm.
In fact, it's rarely like that.
I agree.
And people start to treat people as less than, as
Mhm.
like that. I don't want to get too much into specifics about certain people and certain
No, I
and
understand.
events, but you treat somebody like this microphone.
Mhm.
It's a great microphone. It works. We've used it. Have many podcasts, but
Mhm.
yeah, I could go to the store and get two more of them today
Right,
if I
right.
needed to, right? And it's that idea that people
Disposable.
are just disposable.
Mhm.
Really, really just drives me
Insane.
up a wall.
I got a story to tell you real quick
Yeah.
because you just reminded me. It triggered something. So I have an elderly mother who's in a home right now, and I see how they care for her, and it's not great. And I traveled to Asia, I want to say 7 years ago, and the way that they treat the elderly in Asia, they treat them like kings and queens because they look at somebody who's 80, 90 years old who as like they've lived life, they have experience and knowledge, and so they really cherish that. And it's the polar opposite in the US. And I think that's, I know we're talking global right now, but yeah, in the US, I think we have a society that's pretty self-absorbed, I would say. And they're not worried so much. I'm not saying everybody, but I will say that there's a lot of people that struggle to show sympathy or empathy, especially for the elderly. So I really admire what you do. I mean, it's not easy. That's for sure, man.
I
Yeah.
give a lot of credit to my caregivers
Mhm.
because they're the ones that are going in and actually doing all that work. And
Mhm.
we're lucky because we are seniors helping seniors. My caregivers are a little bit older,
Got it.
so my younger caregivers are going to be in like their mid 40s.
Got it.
They bring years of experience, and what comes as a result of that, something that I get to benefit from,
Mhm.
is they understand the empathy and the compassion,
Sure.
and these things are sort of you know they're unique to certain people,
Mhm.
but they're essential to good caregivers.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, with these big nursing homes and, you know, 55 plus with caregivers, they're hiring people making 12 bucks an hour, 15 bucks an hour. So, and elderly people are not easy either. They're struggling to walk and go to the bathroom and things like that. So it's not the most glamorous role.
Mhm.
But, and I saw it firsthand with my mother, and it was horrific, man. And they would steal things, and I actually had to move her out of there into another one. And, so I mean,
How's
holy
she
cow.
doing now? Is she in a better
She's doing
spot?
all right. Yeah, she's in a better spot. She's got a little bit of the early onset dementia. So she's, which is a huge challenge for anybody, really. I
Yeah.
think, especially me and my family, my brother and sister.
Mhm.
It's hard to see your superhero, your mom and your dad, start to break down, you know?
It's a big part of what I end up doing in my
Mhm.
role.
Sure.
Shameless plug here for the
Please
business.
do.
We half of people over 80 have some sort of cognitive decline,
Mhm.
and the a lot of times it's like you mentioned, you lose the forest through the trees
Mhm.
when the person that you're talking about is one of the top probably 3 to 5 most important people in your life.
Mhm.
It's mom, dad, spouse,
Sure.
grandma, and um, the it's so easy sometimes to forget that and see it as that it's the disease, not your loved one.
Yeah.
And I've had that conversation a lot. I try to educate.
Mhm.
In addition to owning Seniors Helping Seniors, I'm on the advisory council for the Area Agency on Aging in Broward.
Oh, wow.
And we just very recently did the Empowering Caregivers Conference, which is a conference in Broward County
Mm.
that's done annually. It's no cost to families, and it's aimed specifically at caregivers providing care to folks with dementia and Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
And because they're learning on the job,
Yeah.
and it is a big, big learning curve,
Mhm.
and it's painful and it's hard.
Yeah. I think, I wish somebody, I think they should teach in college a course because everybody's parents are going to age and they're going to die eventually. And for me, I just remember being so shocked at how quickly it happened. Like she retired, and then every year that went by, you saw the decline, because she wasn't engaging in, interacting with a lot of people. So you
Mhm.
get slower, and you if you don't move, your body gets weaker and you ache more, and so
You
I
have to keep moving.
I wish
Yeah.
I had some sort of education, because and I think it's really important that this next generation understands that your parents are going to decline eventually. And for me, it was so shocking. I mean, I just remember going, I would have to go pick my mother up off the floor, twice a week. She lived 5 blocks away from me in Weston.
Mhm.
And it was my phone would ring at 2 in the morning. She'd fall out of her bed. And it was just like, you don't, it's almost, they become the child and you become the adult now. And that's extremely challenging for anybody. And it's frustrating too, because they're your parents. So when you try to tell them to do something, they're like, you don't tell me what to do, man,
Right.
and I'm like, I'm just trying to help you, man. And they're just, so it's really this challenging dynamic that most people have no idea how to handle, and I'm one of them, man. Like, I was just so caught off guard, and my sister, my brother don't live anywhere near here, so it all fell on me, and so it has a tremendous impact, and it really wore on my mental health too, because when you see that decline, and you I'm the guy who had to take away her keys from the car. I'm the guy who had to sell her house and put her in a, so there was a lot of animosity for me
Mhm.
in that situation. So, man, what an incredible thing that you do, because especially, doing it well, there's not a lot of people doing it well, I don't think. I mean, at least what I've seen.
Yeah. Well, doing good matters,
Mhm,
and helping people matters.
mhm.
And this I highly encourage anyone who is dealing with this, which is a lot of people, by the
Yeah.
way,
Mhm.
call and ask for help.
Yeah.
If you're concerned, it doesn't cost anything to call me
Mhm.
and talk about your parents
Sure.
and what they're going through and what does a home health agency do and how can we help and
Right.
all the questions that you're going to have. How do we do background checks? How do I hire my people? How do I keep an eye on it? If I live in Colorado and mom lives in Weston,
Yeah.
how do I make that work? And sort of,
Exactly.
how do we communicate? And
Mhm.
within usually a 20 or 30-minute conversation,
Mhm.
I can enlighten you on everything that we do, exactly how we can help,
Mhm.
which is going to be mostly you telling me about your mom.
Yeah.
But we can put a lot of that fear at ease.
Mhm.
You're never alone.
Mhm.
And I personally, it's the reason why I got involved with the Area Agency on Aging was because it just didn't sit well with me to meet people
Right.
who need help.
Right.
And they're in that situation like you talked about. They don't know what help looks like. They just know that they
Mhm.
need it. And if they call and they talk to me and find out that they can't afford it or they're not in a position to be able to pay for it,
Mhm.
if I just kind of hand salute and say, "All right, good luck. You don't have any money? Oof,
Mhm.
that's rough. Bye."
Good luck. Yeah.
Yeah, how much worse did I just make that for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted something to be able to give them.
Right.
And so I started making relationships with people at the area agency. Their CEO, Charlotte, is an incredible woman,
Mhm.
and everyone at that agency is amazing. Um, and I started making some friends inside of the sort of senior business,
Yeah.
attorneys and whatnot, geriatric care managers that I
Mhm.
work with that can help families make sense of the chaos.
Yeah.
And that's I love that we do that because
Yeah.
we're not chasing ambulances.
Mhm.
I'm not desperately trying to talk to you about your car's
Mhm.
extended warranty. Um, we are we're helping people and
Mhm.
we're keeping people home
Yeah.
and allowing them to age with dignity in their home is
Mhm.
is important.
It
There's a
is.
lot of them.
I would agree. Yeah, I think going forward for me, I wish I'd known you a few years ago because it would have made my life a lot easier. But you only know what you know, right?
Yeah.
And we do the best that we can. But that's something I hope maybe you write a book and prepare kids or adult kids for these types of things because it's definitely challenging. I do want to ask you a question because I know for a man, um, I never really thought about how I would feel aging up to geriatric and how that would make me feel at that moment in time when you kind of lose your independence and you lose your almost your manhood, right? You feel very vulnerable. And,
Yeah.
I think you and I as athletes and, we don't I don't feel vulnerable. You don't feel vulnerable, I'm sure. Uh, but because we're still healthy. But when you start to lose your health and you start to lose your marbles too, I mean, I would imagine that's got to be pretty scary for people. I mean, do you see that a lot? And how do you see these men react? Do they fall into depression or are they what goes on?
Mostly depression. Because as men, I think we're built just genetically to be sort of action
Yeah,
oriented.
agree.
And then even when it comes to these emotions, right? When
Mhm.
the emotions come up, I think we're almost built to um,
Hide it.
or fix it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Not necessarily process what we're feeling, but to fix it.
Yeah,
And so it's about what can we do. And I talk to people all the time, and there's like, yeah, I'm looking at. I feel like I'm looking into my future every time that I'm there with my dad.
yeah,
And you because at some point the seniors themselves, especially the ones who are mentally intact, they talk about, I don't feel like I'm useful anymore
hmm.
because I don't have anything to do. I don't provide value, and
It's no
so
purpose.
who am I? And now all of a sudden it's this existential question of,
Yeah,
what am I if I'm not a husband and a father and a provider?
right.
And so if all of your worth is tied up in what you can provide and what you can do,
Mhm.
what happens when there's no one left to provide for?
Yeah, that happened to me. Like, I mean, when my kids grew up and left, like I was going to baseball games every weekend and practices, and I was working full time. And I remember that feeling of like, my kids really don't need me, other than to pay for college, and it was, uh, it was hard. It was really hard. So I can't even imagine, I feel like every person needs to have sort of some purpose or something to look forward to, whether it's a trip or whether it's going to dinner every week with a family member. I think that kind of stimulates you and it gives you something to look forward to. So that's kind of what I try to do with my mom, um, even though sometimes it's really difficult. But, you know, for me, when I went through my tough times, I found my purpose in God. I found purpose in helping men. That's why I do this podcast. And that's why you're on here because that is now my purpose, and the reason why you and I get along so well is, we like to help people. We want to try to be that person that's there and can help people through difficult times. I mean, I think your job is very challenging, I would imagine, but very rewarding at the same time, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I think for me as a man, um, I remember, it's crazy. I remember living every day, and my only purpose was working. Was being a CEO. That was my only purpose. And 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 you see this happening to a lot of people, actors, athletes, people that made 10 times more money than I made. And where you just kind of sit there and you're like, the car doesn't make me happy, the clothes don't make me happy, and then you start looking for authenticity. And this is really what happened to me. Right? And that's why I was drawn to more spiritual life and surrounding myself with more like-minded people, people that shared the same core values, and people that weren't selfish. I found I'm really attracted to humble people and selfless people and people that just love. And because this world that we live in today, man, it's the
It's
polar
easy to
opposite,
feel like you're surrounded by people that are just trying to make something off of you.
especially in business.
What can you give me?
Yeah, I almost feel like people, when you meet people, they're like, well, what can you do for me? They're not saying it, but they're in their head, they're thinking it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I look at people and I say, what can I do for you? How can I, you know, uh, provide assistance or just a conversation? And I think that's kind of how we started just talking, man. And it's
Mhm.
funny how we had all those similarities and how we interact with other people. And though our stories are different, we all go through challenging times, and coming through those challenging times as a man is hard. It's hard.
It is.
Hmm.
And I always like to just challenge people to just change the way that you think about it
Hmm.
and change the
Love
way
this.
that change your perspective.
Yeah,
And I'll tell a little story.
please.
So, rescue swimmer school,
Hmm.
and I knew going into it, obviously, it was going to be hard.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for the guy at MEPS because he's the one who told me, he's like, hey, just so you know, between like 60 and 70% of the people who go out for the school either quit or fail. So good luck, high five, see ya. Um, I in the process as you go to boot camp, and then I went to air crew school,
Hmm.
and SAR school is search and rescue is right down the street
Yeah.
in Pensacola. On the day of graduation, we put on brand new shiny uniforms. They tell us we're going to give you your paperwork. You're going to march down, give them your paperwork, and there's going to be an aggressive uniform inspection. And that's all they tell us.
What does that mean? It just depends. I
It's a
don't know
real
how I feel about that.
it's a real special day. And maybe a little bit of hazing, but I'm sure they don't. They do probably something different now. It's a
Yeah.
much kinder, gentler Navy. Um, but so again, it wasn't a surprise to me what SAR school was going to be.
Yeah.
But I spent probably 4 days getting my uniform ready for my aggressive uniform inspection.
Hmm.
And I had every crease, my uniform rank on my sleeve, no what we call IPs, no strings, everything just perfect.
Perfect.
Most of the time spent on my shoes. They give us these leather shoes, and you're expected to have like a mirror shine on them, right? So just days with my lighter, and I had a beautiful shine, fresh haircut. I was feeling as good as I could. And
I
but
know what this
still,
is.
it's a daunting thing
Right.
because even all the way through aircrew school, not all of us are going to SAR school,
Hmm.
and they always talk about, oh, you guys have to work harder, you have to do more, SAR school's coming. And so that day, they give us our paperwork. We march down. I'm standing at parade rest on the side of the building, and one of the other teams comes marching up. There's at any time there's two teams. There's A team and B team, and so B team comes walking up. They were down to three guys. And you start with 24 or 25, and 60 to 70% of the people quit or fail. So, but that's like a statistical average. Some classes will have all the guys will go through,
Okay.
and then some of them are going to be down to three.
Okay.
And so we're standing at parade rest. I have no idea when the instructors are going to come out, so we're all kind of side eyeing these guys, and they just fall out and kind of march inside. And so that was intimidating
Hmm.
to start out with. And then they come out, and I'll never forget one of the first guys that walked up to me, one of the instructors. He got in my face, picked up my cover, was looking inside of it. Everything was brand new, stenciled, perfect, and he looked down at my shoes and he goes, "Man, that looks really good." And then he just drug the top of his foot across the top of my shoe, and and so and then let the games begin, right? So
Hmm.
they ripped the rank off my sleeve. It was fun. Ended up ruining the uniform, but it was a sort of a rite of passage,
Hmm.
but it was intense.
I'm sure.
And we get done with all of that, and it turns into, okay, come back on Monday. And now this thing that was super daunting, super scary, super this thing that I sort of knew conceptually was all of a sudden real.
Yeah.
Was very real.
Yeah.
And so I went to eat by myself, and I came back from chow by myself, and I'm in my head the whole time. Oh, this is going to be so hard. This is going to be the hardest thing I've ever done.
Sure.
And and can I really do it? Am I good enough?
Yeah.
I grew up in Plainfield, Indiana. I swam in my grandma's pool. I want to be a rescue swimmer. I'm going to do a mile open ocean swim. I'm going to jump out. I'm going to put you on my back and swim for 800 meters. Like, am I really going to be able to even do this?
Yeah.
And all of the things that that internal dialogue that people have all the time of, am I good enough?
Yeah.
Um, and man, I was scared.
I'm sure.
And but I was going up to my room, and it's 100,000 years ago, right? So all of the phones were, and payphones on the wall, cell phones were a thing, but it was much more common that people would just get a calling card and be able to call home
Sure.
through the payphone. And as I was walking past this guy, I don't even know his name, I heard him say, "Dad, I quit today."
Oof.
And I was like, well,
I ain't doing that.
screw that. It was just that fast. In that moment, I will die in that pool before I quit.
Good for you.
Because my dad, I love my dad, was one of the hardest working people in my life. And I credit him with the work ethic,
That's awesome.
for all of his faults, and he never missed a day of work. And he always showed up for his family like that. And he always, as a provider, never missed.
Wow.
And in my head, I knew 100% that if I called him and I said, "Dad, it was really hard today. We did a lot of running. We did a lot of push-ups, a lot of pull-ups, a lot of swimming. And then I gave up, because they were really hard. They yelled at me. I had to do, I had to lift some weights, and that he would have said, "It's okay. Come on home. It's okay." Or, by the way, I couldn't have gone home. I just would have lost those orders. But that his willingness to just be like, "Don't worry, I love you. You're good," would have made it 100,000 times worse. Right? I was like, no, 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 no. And then I ended up, I drowned in the pool.
Oh shit.
At one point. I actually blacked out because I had a guy we were doing escapes and releases, and he did a move where he turned me around, and when he turned me around, he cinched my chest strap down. I lost all my air, and now, because it's a testable evolution, he's going really slow, and then my world is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then the next thing I know, I'm on the side of the pool. Well, good morning. Getting sternum rub. It was great.
Wow.
So choking, fun day.
No.
But it can flip in a dime. So the reason I say that is that if the moment is one of the things that I loved about being an instructor, because the moment you realize that your limits live here, then it can change literally everything.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more with you. Like, I wish I'd grown up with a little more discipline, honestly, because I really had to learn myself and I kind of learned the hard way. And I learned by making mistakes, trying, failing, do it again. And the one thing that I did have was tenacity and, like you said, work ethic. And I'm not the smartest, I am not the prettiest, I'm not the tallest, the strong, none of that. I just had a tenacious work ethic. And it took me longer to read things. It took me longer to figure things out. But having that tenacity and having that mindset that there's no other option but to do this. And I think, especially in this generation of kids, I think young adults, yeah, I think they struggle when something's not easy because right now everything is really easy. You can
It's
touch of a
all at a
finger,
touch
you can
away.
get whatever you want, man. And
Instant gratification.
yeah, and I think for me, playing sports was very helpful because I um, learned how to fail and then get back up and keep going and then succeeding. And it's interesting because my son was a baseball player since he could walk, like, and he was a great ball player. He was fantastic, and he tore his shoulder his senior year of high school, so his career ended there. But his coaches were militant, man. Like, and it was the hardest thing as a dad, like to watch a man scream at my son, and I'm just like, but it set these standards for him
Mhm.
and boundaries, and it taught him how to fail. And I think that's sorely missed today. So now I watch my son, who's a senior in college, and his work ethic it's just like mine, man. I'm like, holy crap, I did a pretty good job, man. Like this kid he's special, man. And
Makes a difference.
it does. And I think not every kid plays sports, but I think at some point, teenagers, college students, young adults, they're going to have to learn how to deal with adversity, hard stuff. And I don't know how to do that like at this point because I don't have kids like that. But
It's difficult now. Even sports are different
yeah.
because my youngest daughter is 5,
Hmm.
and my older daughters are 14 and 15,
Hmm.
about to be 15 and 16. And I think there's just a very different mentality around sports even today,
Yeah.
and there's sort of a lot of
It's intense.
participation trophies,
Yeah.
and you lose. It doesn't need to be super over the top, especially with younger kids,
Yeah.
because it is a game and it should be fun.
Hmm.
But losing is a really good motivator to try to get better.
Yeah.
If you have somebody who's there to teach you that that's meant to be fuel to your fire
Hmm.
and not necessarily you failed because you are bad as a person.
Yeah.
You failed because if you're playing soccer, they won because they're better at soccer than you are.
Hmm.
Today wasn't your day.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do about that? You should practice and get harder and get better.
Hmm.
And then, tomorrow, next game, you
Hmm.
might win
Yeah.
because winning feels good.
Yeah.
Everybody loves to win.
Hmm.
Not everybody hates to lose.
Hmm. Yeah. I have a funny story about that. So my son was playing competitive travel baseball, and we flew out to Atlanta for a big tournament. He was pitching for one of these teams. They brought him in, and he came into the game at the end of the game, and they ended up tying the game off of them. They were winning, and like he came in with like the bases loaded and nobody out, and
No pressure.
so no pressure, right? And so I just remember watching, and as a parent, I'm sitting here like freaking out, had sweaty palms, and he was cool, calm, cold as ice, man. Like that military training, it worked, man. But he felt like he felt really bad because they tied the game. So we went back
Yeah.
to the hotel that night, and I'm like, yeah, it's not your fault. That umpire had a bad call. He's like, Dad, it is my fault. I failed. Like, and I'll be okay, Dad. I'm like, I'm like, did you just become the dad and I was the son? It
Right.
was hilarious, man, because it was like he owned it. And that's rare for a 15, 16-year-old kid to do that, man.
That's rare for 35-year-old men.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he just owned it and he's like, look, I got to work harder. I got to do more. And, you know, I just wonder how we can transition this next generation um, into understanding that anything worth a shit, excuse my language, is hard, man.
Yeah.
And you have to work hard to get things that you want in life, man. And um, it's just kind of a lost art. So I saw a video on Instagram and I forget who it was, but they were saying it was Dana White from the UFC. He said it's so easy for kids to stand out and be great now because there's so many kids now that don't. they don't want to work hard and they're scared. And so all you got to do is show up, work hard, and in time, eventually you're going to be very good, you know? So I think that's wow, this world is crazy now, man. I don't
These
know.
younger kids, I think, and I'm 42, so
Hmm.
I'm 42 years young, and I think it's so with my kids being teenagers now, I think we
Hmm.
talk about it all the time. When I grew up,
Hmm.
there was no real discussion about what it meant to be like a man.
Hmm. Me
You know,
too.
what I mean, there was like be respectful to your mom.
Yeah.
You know, don't start a fight, but end it.
Hmm.
You know, if it, protect yourself and protect the other people if that happens.
Right.
Um, and now you fast forward to today.
Hmm.
So that was very superficial,
Hmm.
like off the bottom of a Snapple lid. But
Hmm.
now is hyper aware
Oh
of
yeah.
let's try to label everything. Everything needs to be labeled
Hmm.
and understood so that I can very quickly put you into a box.
Yeah.
And so I think I just want for my kids, and I
Hmm.
have girls, but I think it's important for men to understand
Hmm.
what that does
Hmm.
and what that means. Because one of the things that happens a lot as a topic of conversation is specific to masculinity
Yeah.
and what it means to be a man.
Hmm.
And it's predominantly negative.
Yeah.
The narrative now is that this idea that a man should protect
Hmm.
and provide,
Hmm.
these are, you have to recognize and understand that that is who we're built to be.
Yeah.
And so
Hmm.
I don't think, I just think that kids need to be aware of it
Hmm.
and then understand that somebody's trying to put you in a box
Hmm.
and it's up to you to make your box,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
if you're asking me,
Yeah.
I think our definition of masculinity today isn't, it's not toxic. I just think it's incomplete.
Yeah, I think the lines are blurred and
Yeah.
roles are not defined anymore. And so for me, I always fall back to like things that are said in the Bible, how, you shouldn't have sex before you're married. You should, there's a certain way to do it. And, there's a, there's roles, like there's God, then the man who's the provider and protector, and then the wife who takes care of the home, the kids, the person who makes the home complete. And that's that nuclear family, it's gone. It's few and far between. I mean, and so for me, I look at this next generation and they're not having as many kids. They're not getting married. There's a lot of 30 and 40-year-old kids living at home, man, as adults. And, that could be because of the sign of the times, economy. But I think it's really more about, there's just so much there's so much gray area now. There's nothing, and that's why I admire the military too, because it is black and white. There's no gray in the military, man, in training, and that discipline is intense, man. And I think kids might need a little bit more structure because even the school system it's not the greatest. I mean,
Yeah.
test scores for kids now are in the
Not getting
gutter.
better.
No, no, it's been bad, man.
It's the service part of it.
Mhm,
I think the service, for especially for young men,
mhm.
service matures you.
I agree.
It's just like when you play on a baseball team,
Mhm,
all of a sudden you're responsible to something that's more than yourself.
yeah.
And what you do and how you prepare and how you perform
Mhm.
has impact outside of yourself. And what does that feel like? People need to know what that feels like. In
I
the
agree.
military, it's
Mhm.
um,
It's lives.
it's lives.
Mhm,
And depending on the job, less so for
mhm,
some folks, but it's the training and the understanding that I am a part of a bigger whole.
mhm.
Um, and so, and back to, it starts to kind of scratch that itch for men
Yeah.
about usefulness.
Mhm,
Productivity feeds us, I think,
mhm.
more than like positivity.
I
I don't
couldn't
need
agree
somebody
more.
telling me it's going to be great, but
No.
knowing that I have a purpose and
Mhm.
knowing that I have something that I'm working for
Oh my god, you're so spot on, dude.
matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look, give a man a purpose, and he will crawl through broken glass to get it done, especially when it's a family or a wife or kids. And I think, yeah, there is a lost art of purpose in today's society, and like it's all about what you're doing on social media, what kind of car, where you've been, what are you
Yeah.
eating, and it's like there's no. I think there's a lot less people that are present in the moment in time. Like, hey, man, we're in this podcast studio. It's pretty cool, and like it's the same thing. Like you and I, we as kids, we went outside and played. Like
Yeah.
I
Play was a thing.
yeah, like with people. And I
Right.
think what social media has done is it's supposed to bring people together. All it's created is an alternative way of communicating, but it's not real, man.
All the communication, none of the responsibility, or none of the accountability.
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah. They will talk so much garbage online.
Yeah.
I mean, I see kids getting bullied like crazy, man, online. And it's just it's so
Do
easy.
it to each other. All and that
Mm,
it goes back to that label thing.
yeah.
What are your labels?
Hmm.
So that I can quickly put you in a box. If I know, who you voted for, how old you are, where you grew up, but all these things. Are you a Christian? Are you not a Christian? Are
Yeah.
these if I know that you're a 50-year-old Christian man
Hmm.
and you voted Republican or
Right.
whatever, I know exactly who you are.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know who you are at all.
Uh,
Those are some goofy labels that have
mhm.
nothing to do with you as a
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And that's what I think social media's biggest. I
Hmm.
love the connectivity part of it,
Hmm.
that I can see with my own eyes
Hmm.
what's happening in Bali,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
and these things that I had the privilege of seeing as a kid deploying all over the world.
Hmm.
These younger generations now have kind of access to that, and that's cool. But I also grew up in an era when if I was like, "Hey, screw you, dude,"
Hmm.
I had to deal with the fact that you were going to probably take a swing. You know?
Yeah. It was
And
real. Like, I mean, I'd be in the playground, and 3 o'clock, meet me at the playground. We're fighting,
playground
man.
rules, yeah.
And it doesn't happen now, man. Like, it's a different world, different landscape. And I think, I hope we can course correct this thing. And I think things are starting to evolve a little. I think people are starting to pick up on a vast majority of what's on social media is not real. And
Yeah.
now with AI, holy cow,
Oh my
who
goodness, yeah.
knows what's real anymore? Like, I mean, I'm seeing things that like, people have cancer, and I'm like, really? And then I'll go look on like a reputable site, and no word of
Nope.
it. And
Yeah.
so I think,
You went serious with. I was thinking, I just saw a video the other day of a lady with a baby penguin and she was feeding the baby penguin. And I was like, oh man, that is really cool.
mm,
It was complete crap. It was not. It
not
was
real.
all AI. I was like,
Hmm.
why? Why? Why are you toying
There's
with
some
my emotions like that,
funny stuff
man?
on social media. It is entertaining. I'll say that, man.
Yeah.
I will. But I think, you know, getting people together, putting the phones away, interacting. And I think for me, where I found that most is with my church community. Like, and it's such a pure kind of, we're humans, we make mistakes, but it's just like people all, you know, together with good intention, and man, I had it wrong most of my life because I really, I felt like everything I was taught that was important, mm, didn't make me happy, and it
Yeah.
wasn't important. And everything that was important, really, that I was taught wasn't important, really was what made me happy. And that's helping people, helping men, having a God to pray to, and having a home base, and bringing peace to my life. And when you're on this, almost that fake life, or that fake alternative ego that you have as a man, it's hard to keep that status forever, because you get tired, you
Yeah.
get weak. You have moments in time where you're going to fail, and bad things are going to happen. And I think that's where a lot of men suffer today because of social media. They see all this status, and it's just not real, man. It's just not. And I'm old enough and smart enough to know that But is a 24-year-old kid that smart?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I
What are
mean,
you chasing?
what are you chasing? And I think that's going back to purpose. I think for a masculine man, I think his purpose obviously is God, his family, his health, and so forth. But having purpose is the key, in my opinion, to pure happiness and feeling complete as a human being.
Hmm.
Because you don't get to take any of this crap with you, when you're out of here.
It's true.
But you know what? You have your legacy that you're leaving with your kids, and then their kids, your grandkids, and so I think that really, and that's something I didn't learn until I was 53 years old, man. You know,
You
and
don't know what you don't know, man.
yeah, yeah, and it's crazy how sometimes it takes the worst thing in life to happen to you, to figure that out, and that happens to a lot of people. I think that's why a lot of people turn to God when they go through a cancer diagnosis, or they go through a divorce or business bankrupting.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It
And
shocks you out of where you're at and
yeah,
makes you kind of zoom out a little bit.
well, it shows you what's important, man, because you're still breathing, you're still alive, your family's okay, you're going to be okay. It's dealing with, you know, this major change. And you just staying present in the moment and appreciating things around you. And, my pastor, he, uh, he always says to me, he's like, listen, think of a bird. Birds wake up every day. They fly, they land on branches. They always find food somewhere or another, and they are carefree. They have nothing to worry about. They trust, and that's a bird. You and I are very intelligent human beings, and most people have a half a brain at least, And so for us to sit here, especially as men, to worry about, the things that might happen, and that's going back to what you had talked about, getting in your own head. When you were in boot camp, and you're like, well, I can't do this. And we all do it, man. We all do it. And it's
Yeah.
just, finding a way to shift that way of thinking to a more, most of us go, okay, what if this goes wrong? Not too many people go, well, what if this goes right? And that takes a lot of training, man. It ain't easy, man. It ain't easy. So,
If you have faith,
yeah.
then you can focus on more. I think it's important to know that it can fail and it can go right.
Mhm,
But if you have faith, then you in yourself and in God and your community and the
mhm,
people around you, whatever, it then you know that you can move on to, well, what am I going to do?
mhm,
And have a plan for what does that look like? Because you're going to fail.
mhm.
It's going to go wrong. Sometimes it's going to go catastrophically wrong.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's going to go so good that it feels like you're never going to fail again.
yeah.
And you're on top of the world, and I'm amazing and everything,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden, and
You crash and
now all of a
burn.
sudden you're back down here.
Mhm,
And the I think where the faith part comes into it is is
mhm,
is the resilience to know that you're going to ebb and you're going to flow
mhm.
because that's life. But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I think for men specifically, we always have a plan.
Mhm.
Most of us have a plan of what we're going
Sure.
to do, but our plan is so outwardly focused.
Mhm,
How am I going to help my wife? How am I going to help my kids? What am I going to do for my business? What am I going to do if I am so at some point just get a mirror,
mhm,
look into it
mhm,
and figure and make a plan for you. Make a plan for
mhm,
right here. What am I going to
mhm.
do for me?
Yeah.
Because I had, we talked about I had that kind of fork in the road moment
Yeah.
of I was in the military, I was going to fly. This is what I was going to do with my life.
Mhm,
I was going to retire. And then, I was going to be 38 years old, 39 years old,
mhm,
re- retired from the military.
mhm.
And then I would kind of find something else to do, but I would have my pension forever,
Yeah.
enter 120 millimeter rocket. And now all of a sudden
Everything
I'm
else.
over here.
Yeah.
And that was my moment of, very physically being kind of shaken
Mhm.
and realizing that my path, where I was going and what I was doing, there was something very, very wrong.
Mhm.
And
You don't control
any of it.
any of it, dude. And I talk to my pastor we talk about it all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
that's why you got to have faith in God, and that's why, because look, at the end of the day, if we sit here and we worry about going 70 miles per hour highway because we might die, it's, you we do it anyways. It is very dangerous. Like, people die in car accidents every day,
Mhm.
but we do it because we have faith. It's blind faith, really. And even if you don't believe in God, and there are people out there that don't, they have faith that they're going to be able to drive and not crash and die. And for me, that was the biggest pivotal moment in my life, is finding faith. And I've always been, a believer in God, but like having a true relationship with Christ for me was the game changer for me, and it allowed me to really, when I fall off track, I come back to my faith and I pray, and and it's for me, it's beautiful. It's the peace that was missing back in the first 53 years of my life,
Mhm.
where, constant worrying, what could go wrong. And, now, hey man, it's I can only control a few things in this situation, and I can't control what that person does or that person does, or, how this outcome is going to come, but I'm going to have faith that, God's putting me in the right place at the right time, and something good's going to come out of it.
It's the creator in you.
Yeah,
Because I tell my kids, whatever you think, you're right.
that's right.
Yeah. If you think it's awful and it's the end, and it's my SAR school story. I thought this was going to be terrible. This is going to be awful. This is going to be really hard. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I was scared. Um, and I wish that I would have had somebody in that moment
Mhm.
to talk to,
Yeah.
but of course I didn't. So I love this that
Mhm, mhm,
this conversation's happening. But the moment that I heard that guy quit, I was
mhm.
like, "Ooh,
Right.
nope." All of a sudden, where did that come from?
Mhm.
Where did that steel reserve just come from? Of I will
Mhm.
die in that pool
Yeah.
before I quit. There's
Mhm.
no way. It's just not going to happen. I will fail. Maybe
Mhm.
you know,
Uh,
maybe I won't make one of these events, but I'm not going to quit.
yeah.
I'm definitely not going to quit because it was
Mhm.
hard. The
You did get resuscitated, by the way, so it was
Yeah, yeah.
that was really hard, man, and scary, I would imagine, so you made it, though,
I
thank
was
God.
asleep for it. When I woke up, I kind of
I
made
didn't
it
feel
through.
anything, I just choked on some water, man.
Yeah.
That's
Uh, you know,
gotta be intense, dude. Just, you're a better man than I am, man, honestly, because it's
everybody's got a story though too.
yeah, yeah, I feel like, what we're doing here is impacting people, I think, especially men. And, looking at people that subscribe to the channel, it's very interesting. There's a lot of women, and they will interact with me on the channel, and they'll say what you're doing is great, and they're having their husbands watch it and do things, and that's a great feeling for me, because, like, if I can save one life, man, I'm great, man.
Yeah.
That's an amazing thing, and I think, man, you made a living out of saving lives, man. So thank you for your
Yeah.
service, by the way.
Oh, I
That was,
appreciate that.
yeah, man.
Trying to help.
Yeah.
I hope more people come to your message because
Mhm.
I think, and it's sort of like going to church. Oh, whatever gets you there, go.
Mhm.
But this story of what it means to be a man on a mission and how do we be men and
Mhm.
creating a safe space for people to talk. You know what I mean? And that's kind of a coined term, for safe space, but
Mhm.
the we're doers by nature, right? So
Right.
men don't always necessarily need somebody to come and save them,
Mhm.
but we do need somebody that we can talk to that's
Sure.
not going to judge us
Mhm.
while we figure it out.
Yeah.
And so the more you encourage folks to have this conversation,
Yeah.
I love it.
I think,
I think it's amazing.
like I said in the beginning of this podcast, I think telling our stories helps people, especially when they're in a moment of crisis, man. And they, like I said, if it's that one person that says, "Well, holy cow, I'm not alone," and I have a men's group that through my church that I meet with monthly, and I had an opportunity to kind of tell my story, and there was probably 50 men there, and I had 5 or 6 men come up to me and just a couple of them started crying, just like and just they were like, "I'm just so glad I'm not the only person feeling this way, and you coming through what you went through gives me hope." And it's like, so having that impact is truly why I do this podcast and why I bring people like you on, because clearly you are a class act, man. You're awesome, man.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
man. So we're gonna end it here. Folks, thank you so much for watching. For those of you who are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, share. We look forward to hearing from you. Feel free to comment. Look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Again, thank you, sir. Folks, have a great night. Take care. Bye-bye.